So you've made the wonderful decision to move to Italy. Now I can tell you firsthand, you are most likely now going to hear one of three things from people that you tell this news to. When I moved to Italy back in August 2018, I was told all three of these things. And even now, to this day, I read in expat groups, people sharing and talking about the same things to people that want to move here. Now, I'm a big believer in that you create your own story, your own life, your own experiences. And so I want to address these three things that repeatedly get told to people that want to move to Italy, to give you the opportunity to look at them in a different way, to give you a different perspective. Because if you are told these at the very beginning, it can be very easy to want to change your mind about moving here. And I don't want you to necessarily do that. So let's talk about them, shall we? So, the first thing that you will be told when you say that you want to move to Italy is that the bureaucracy in Italy is very difficult. Now, I can tell you firsthand that yes, it's tricky. Yes, it is a lot more traditional. Italy, pre-COVID especially, didn't really do a lot of things online, but obviously since the COVID restrictions, there are more opportunities now to do your admin through email and in an online capacity, but it is a very traditional country, and for the majority of your admin you will need to make appointments and go in person to offices to sort out what you need to do. It's one of those things, and I think the biggest thing that you can do to help yourself is to come to Italy with an open mind. Understand that it's not a country that is necessarily going to be like the one you've come from, and that you have to really have a lot of patience and understanding and not make the comparison, because what makes it difficult, I think, for a lot of people when they come to Italy is that they immediately make the comparison between Italy and the country they've come from. It's so much better if you don't do this, trust me, because if you have an open mind and you come here and you're more accepting and more tolerant and more patient, your experience here will be a lot easier. Trust me, I can tell you this. Now, I sorted out all of my admin, and I'm talking about things like converting my driving license, sorting out my healthcare, my residency, work contracts, and most recently my Carta di Soggiorno, which is needed now if you were living here pre-Brexit. And I managed to do the majority of those things on my own. I did have some help initially, especially when I first moved here, with people coming with me to translate. But most recently, I've sorted out the administration on my own, and I've managed to do it with an Italian of a 3-year-old. So it's not impossible. This is the first thing I want to say. Where there is a will, there is a way. And what you need to consider is that when people want to tell you how difficult it is, 9 times out of 10, they've had a bad experience. And the problem with sometimes is that we think we help other people by sharing our bad experiences, but we need to remember always that no two people's experiences will be the same. One person's bad experience is not going to be the same for somebody else. So just bear that in mind. Have patience, be tolerant, don't compare, and just recognize that Italy is a very traditional country. So things are going to be a bit slower. You may have to do a lot of things over and over again, but I promise you it's all worth it in the end. The second thing that you'll be told if you are saying you want to move to Italy is that it's impossible to get a job. Now, I've already done a video about this, I will link it above, with my 5-step guide as to how I got a job here in Italy and as to how I started working here the minute I stepped off the plane. But I understand that the world is a little bit different now. We've had the pandemic, we're still in the pandemic, let's be honest. And of course there's been Brexit if you're coming from the UK, but it's not impossible, it really isn't. There are visas and there are certainly opportunities if you look for them. And I think the biggest mistake that people make is that they listen to the scaremongering. There's no work, Italians leave the country to go and work in other places because, you know, employment conditions and pay is so low. I would just say everything is relative. Yes, the majority of Italians do leave Italy to work in other countries, but you have to remember that everything is relative. They may earn more money in other countries. Let's take London, for example. But let's be honest, the cost of living in London is sky high. So what they earn ends up getting spent on bills and just living in general. So everything is relative, and that's what you need to consider. The pay, especially here in the south of Italy, might be lower, but so is the cost of living generally. So it's just something to bear in mind. And I think, as with anything, it doesn't matter what country you're in, it's never immediately easy to find work, but you have to make the effort. You have to put yourself out there, and I think you should watch this video because I think this will help you as well with some other ideas as to how you can find work here in Italy. But please believe it's not impossible. I came here with no experience in Italy. I came here not speaking the language, and I secured free job interviews and was given free job offers, and I, set up my life here. So it really isn't impossible, and I want to just tell you this because this can be the biggest thing that deters people from moving here. They hear these horror stories about employment and people decide, no, maybe this country isn't for me. Listen, where there's a will, there's a way. I've said it for the first reason, I'll say it for all of these. Where there is a will, there is a way. So apply yourself, put yourself out there, make connections. Italy is all about connections. The way the country works is not necessarily through what you know, but it's through who you know. And how I've really managed to build and sustain myself here has been through connections. So link up with people in expat groups, start to make connections with people who are going to support your dreams and can potentially help you rather than tear them down. So that's the biggest piece of advice I would give to you about employment. And just bear in mind that nothing is ever impossible. If you put enough effort and determination and you have enough persistence, you will find something, I can guarantee it. And the first thing that you'll be told if you say that you are moving to Italy is that it's going to be difficult to meet friends and to communicate if you don't know the language. Now, there is some truth to this because this has been the biggest sticking point for me about living here, has been the language. And I think, now I feel a lot more confident and I'm communicating more, even if it's not grammatically perfect. But certainly when I moved here, I spent the vast majority of my time as a mute and I didn't really speak. And that was very, very difficult, and I think was a big contributor to the breakdown that I had a couple of years ago. But I will say to you that if you can start to learn the language, if you can put yourself out there, it's the same as applying for a job. If you put yourself out there and you can speak with people in the best way that you can. A lot of Italians are very receptive to hand gestures and it's a bit like charades. You try to explain what you want through moving your body. That's certainly how I managed to get by in the very early days. And also, if you just try, Italian people are so friendly, particularly here in the south. People tell me it's different in the north. I can't comment on that. I live in the south, but here people are so friendly, they want to help you. And also you will find a lot of people, especially here in the south, want to try and speak a little bit of English with you. And I find this so wonderful when people want to do this, because really here in the south of Italy, there's very limited opportunity to speak English and to communicate in English. And English isn't very well taught in state schools anyway. So for this, Italians feel like this is something they never get to experiment with and practice. So you will find a way of communicating, but of course learn the language. It really helps to do this and elevates your experience even more. And I would say as well, in terms of making friends, that comes through a little bit of networking. Try to find expat groups in the area you're in. That has certainly brought me out of my shell. And you will find in these expat groups as well that sometimes there will be locals that will join them because they want to practice speaking English. So that can be really beautiful too. And also just, be open when you're in bars, when you're in restaurants, be open to speaking with people or communicating, because Italians are very friendly and they will engage with you and want to include you in conversations. And of course this helps if you know the language, but it doesn't mean that you can't be involved a little bit, even if your Italian is very broken. So, I would just say put yourself out there, mingle, mix, and don't listen to the horror stories of the fact that you'll find it really isolating and that you won't make friends, because I've made friends here. It's taken a little bit of time, and I think this is the biggest thing I would say about moving to Italy. You need patience in every aspect of your life here, but As with anything in this video, nothing is impossible, and I wanted to record this today because this is the 3-year anniversary, I should say, since I moved here this month. And you know, I wanted to just address the 3 common misconceptions that are often spouted out in expat groups as advice, when actually I think it can negatively influence people and put people off and deter people from living here. So congratulations if you're moving to Italy. Have a look at some of my other videos. I think they will also inspire you, as well as my vlogs where I'm taking you around Italy and showing you what real Italian life is like. And I will see you next time.